The final blow came during closing arguments. Aaliyah stood before the jury and said, "Discrimination doesn't always look like violence. Sometimes it's in the words people think they can get away with. Sometimes it's in who they think doesn't belong." She paused and looked straight at Raymond. "But the courtroom doesn't care about skin color. It cares about truth. And the truth is clear." The jury returned the verdict within hours, guilty on all counts. The company was ordered to pay a massive settlement, and Aaliyah's client burst into tears. Raymond, visibly shaken, tried to leave the courtroom quickly, but not before Aaliyah approached him, extended her hand, and said calmly, "Good case." He stared at her hand, then at her face, and for once, he had nothing to say. No smug remarks, no arrogant chuckles. Just silence. What happened next turned Aaliyah into a viral sensation. A court clerk had shared the story on social media. How a racist lawyer got a taste of karma when the woman he belittled completely destroyed him in court. The clip of her closing argument was shared millions of times. Interviews followed. News networks reached out. Aaliyah, who once stood quietly in the shadows of injustice, was now a national symbol of strength, resilience, and brilliance. Her story wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice. It was a reminder to never judge someone's worth by their appearance. A reminder that talent knows no color. And most importantly, it was proof that karma doesn't need to shout. It simply waits for the right moment to show up in court, dressed in a navy blue suit, carrying a file of facts and a lifetime of grace. "You don't belong here." Those were the words spat out by a sharply dressed lawyer as he sneered at the young black woman standing outside the courthouse lobby. People around glanced uncomfortably, sensing the thick tension in the air, but few dared to intervene. The man was Richard Caldwell, a well-known defense attorney with a reputation for being ruthless, but not many had seen this other side of him, one filled with open arrogance and racial contempt. The woman he was speaking to was Maya Johnson, a calm but confident legal intern who was just arriving to assist in a high-profile civil rights case. Dressed professionally, Maya was reviewing her notes when Caldwell bumped into her and sarcastically asked if she was lost, assuming she was staff or a clerk. When she politely informed him she was part of the legal team, he scoffed and said, "They're letting anyone in these days." Gasps echoed from a few bystanders, but Maya didn't respond with anger. Instead, she gave him a long, steady look and walked away with dignity. Little did Richard know, karma was already on its way, and it was wearing heels and holding a briefcase. The very next day, the courtroom buzzed with tension as both sides prepared for a heated battle. The case involved a powerful real estate company accused of discriminatory housing practices, and Richard Caldwell was defending the corporation. On the plaintiff's side was a team of passionate civil rights attorneys, and stepping forward as the lead counsel was none other than Maya Johnson. Caldwell's smug expression faltered when he saw her walk to the front of the courtroom and confidently place her case files on the table. He whispered something under his breath, clearly rattled. Maya stood tall, introduced herself with grace, and began presenting her opening arguments. Her voice was steady, her facts were rock solid, and her passion for justice was undeniable. The jury leaned in, completely captivated by her poise. Throughout the trial, Caldwell tried to undermine her with condescending objections and dismissive smirks, but Maya didn't waver. Her cross-examinations were sharp, her evidence airtight. Every time Caldwell attempted to twist the narrative, Maya skillfully brought it back to the core issue: racial discrimination, something she had just experienced firsthand from the very man trying to deny it existed. The irony was thick, and the courtroom felt it. "You people never amount to anything." Those hateful words echoed through the lobby of a high-rise law firm in downtown Chicago, loud enough to turn heads, sharp enough to cut through confidence. They were spoken by Raymond C. Doyle, a high-profile attorney known for his arrogance and his courtroom theatrics, but not his manners. The target of his venom? A young black woman in her late 20s named Aaliyah Brooks, dressed in business formal, holding a leather-bound portfolio, standing tall despite the storm of humiliation being thrown her way. Raymond, rushing past the reception area, had mistaken Aaliyah for an assistant or perhaps a paralegal. He had no idea she was there for the same reason he was, a prestigious client pitch with the firm's partners. As he brushed past her and made the snide remark, Aaliyah didn't flinch. Her eyes met his, calm and focused. "Excuse me?" she said, not in anger but in assertion. "I'm here for the 10 a.m. meeting with Martin and Lowe." Raymond scoffed. "Right, that must be a mistake. They're expecting attorneys." And with that, he strutted off, laughing under his breath. Aaliyah stood in silence, not because she was defeated, but because she knew, deep in her soul, that life had a funny way of flipping the script. What Raymond didn't know was that Aaliyah wasn't just any lawyer. She was a Harvard law graduate, the youngest senior associate at her firm, and someone whose passion for justice was only rivaled by her unmatched talent in court. Fast forward 3 weeks later. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as a major civil rights lawsuit was about to begin, one that had made headlines across the state. A tech company was being sued for discrimination and wrongful termination, and representing the defendant was none other than Raymond C. Doyle. With his $1,000 suit, smug grin, and signature silver cufflinks, he looked every bit the power attorney he claimed to be. But when the opposing counsel walked in, silence fell like a curtain. There, in a tailored navy blue suit, carrying a thick case file and an air of composed authority, was Aaliyah Brooks. The same woman he had insulted weeks earlier now stood as his courtroom rival. Raymond's jaw tightened. His usual confidence wavered. Aaliyah, however, didn't even blink. She simply greeted him with a professional nod before taking her place. At the plaintiff's table, the trial began, and Aaliyah took control like a seasoned champion. Her opening argument was razor-sharp, clear, powerful, and backed by airtight evidence. She told the jury the story of her client's pain and showed them how discrimination had destroyed not just a career, but a sense of dignity. Her calm demeanor and passionate delivery left the courtroom spellbound. Raymond tried to regain control, but it was obvious. His tactics weren't landing. His objections were weak. His cross-examinations felt forced. The judge even reprimanded him twice for being disrespectful. Meanwhile, Aaliyah moved with quiet authority. Her witnesses were solid, her logic undeniable, and her legal knowledge beyond impressive. By the end of the second day, even the jury could feel the balance tipping. The man who once insulted her for simply existing was now being schooled, publicly, professionally, and poetically. After several intense days, it was clear to everyone watching that Maya had not only held her own, she had dominated. Her closing arguments were a powerful combination of legal precision and heartfelt conviction. She didn't mention what had happened outside the courtroom, but her words carried a weight that resonated with everyone in the room. The jury deliberated for just a few hours before returning with a unanimous verdict in favor of the plaintiffs. Caldwell's face turned pale as the judge read the decision. The corporation he represented was found guilty of discriminatory practices, and Maya's team had just set a powerful legal precedent. But the moment that truly silenced the room came after the trial. As the courtroom emptied, Caldwell approached Maya. His posture wasn't arrogant anymore. It was awkward, almost regretful. "You're impressive," he muttered. Maya looked him in the eye, calm as ever, and said, "Now you know I belong here." She turned and walked away, leaving him standing speechless. The courtroom buzzed with quiet murmurs, and even some of Caldwell's colleagues couldn't hide their admiration for Maya. Maya's story quickly spread through legal circles, and soon after, social media picked it up. People praised her not only for her legal brilliance, but also for the grace with which she handled a painful encounter. Her response wasn't loud or vengeful. It was dignified and victorious. She didn't just win a case. She taught a lesson in resilience, professionalism, and the power of letting success be the loudest response to ignorance. As for Caldwell, his reputation took a hit. Clients began questioning his judgment, and some even dropped him altogether. The video of his smug entrance and the stunned look on his face when Maya stood to speak went viral, labeled instant. Karma in a courtroom. And Maya? She was offered a full-time position at her firm, several speaking engagements, and even received a letter of commendation from a senior judge who had watched the trial. Her journey was just beginning, but the message was already clear. Never underestimate someone because of the color of their skin or their quiet confidence. Because sometimes karma doesn't wait. Sometimes it walks right into the courtroom, files in hand, and wins.